Welcome in to Red River North right here on Ghost SEC channel. Dave Myrick. Typically, I would say along with Randy Heights, but, well, the stomach bug has bit Randy and his entire family. So he is a last-minute scratch. Went through the entire notebook tonight. Brandon Rabar, that covers the Oklahoma City Thunder, said, sure, let's do it. Then he got caught up in a basketball game he forgot about. Also reached out to Chris Evans, a writer here in Oklahoma, does a great job covering baseball. Can't do it. He's doing a show right now at the same time. So it's going to be a whole lot of me tonight talking Oklahoma baseball. Good season, you guys. They finished 38-22, 12th place in the SEC, but, a very stacked league. A lot of teams that finished with the same record. I don't really look at their SEC record as a big measuring stick this season. This year was always going to be a rebuild. After you lose the Omaha core, Jackson Nicholas, John Spikerman, Kendall Pettis, Anthony McKenzie, Bryce Madron weren't, but they were huge pieces last year. Mike Schneider. That's a lot of offense, y'all. And I thought coming into this year, if Oklahoma wanted to make it to Omaha, this pitching staff had to be Omaha good. Well, they were a third of the way there. Kyson Witherspoon is an ace on any staff any year, a generational type guy. The problem was behind him throughout the year. Malachi and Cade had their ups and downs. Defense oftentimes did not help either guy, and then would kind of inflate things. But the point is, all three had to be, on Kyson's level. That was kind of the hope, the promise coming into this year, that with what they lost 1 through 9, the pitching staff would have to take them to that level if they wanted to kind of eclipse what they did last year. Close, but just not quite there as they go down in the Chapel Hill Regional Final. Much to their credit, they won more games this postseason than I kind of anticipated. Going into the thing against Nebraska, when it was announced, all the hubbub about, do you push back Kyson? Do you start Malachi? Well, they slammed the door shut on that, announced Thursday that, yes, Malachi is going to start. And he didn't let him down. That was a spot where Oklahoma could have been a bad look for OU baseball, a little egg on the face if you lose to Nebraska game 1 with a top 10 draft pick sitting in the bench. But Malachi said, you know what? I understand that. I got you. And boy, did he. He threw 6. Complete innings, struck out 9, I think scattered 3 hits and an earned run, gave Oklahoma the chance, the shot they needed to win. Drew Dickerson, I'll talk a lot more about him as the show continues, but we have a budding star in Norman, Oklahoma with Drew Dickerson. That kid, whatever Oklahoma has to do to keep number 21, let's go to one. Ronnie Crimson, what's up, man? Good to see you in the chat. Whatever they've got to do to keep 21, do it. If you got to take what money was allocated for Kyson Witherspoon and drop that in Drew Dickerson's lap, c'est la vie. Do it. Keep the kid around. He is a legit Southeastern Conference batter. He looks the part. He was a top 150 national recruit out of Lee Summit, Missouri, 6'4", 225-pound freshman. Look, I've watched the dude take batting practice in Frisco, Texas. He was hitting the apartments behind left field. I mean, people out like swimming and chilling were having to take cover from this kid's bombs. I mean, he is a legit prospect, one of the most exciting players that I've seen and talked about in a very long time. So keep that dude. But jumping back to game 1, his 2-run shot was absolutely enormous and kind of set the tone in that. And Dylan Crooks, speaking of dudes, would come in and slam the door shut. Passing Bucky Buckles, the great Bucky Buckles in single-season saves at Oklahoma. Bucky had 14. Dylan Crooks finishes the year with 15. Absolute phenomenal year, Dylan Crooks. I don't think anybody saw that coming, and what I mean by that is he is a top 3 closer in America, one of the best to do it. So in that regard, when you talk about having a guy like Kyson, having a guy like Malachi that found his stuff late, having a guy like Dylan Crooks, it's kind of a shame that all 3 of those guys are out, and that's as far as they got with that staff. But I'll talk more about next year and things to be fired up about. What portal additions do I think we need to make? Any idea where the OU program currently sits, NIL? Great question, Ronnie Krim. Like, you know what? I think this 1 through 9, we all saw it this year, right? They need a couple more bashers. You need guys that Easton Carmichael was it in the Oklahoma lineup this year. A guy that every time he's up, the opposition was scared. With one swing, he can change a game. The problem is that was basically it. Oklahoma needs 2 or 3 of those guys, of those dudes in the 1 through 9 to kind of fit in with the upper echelon, SEC teams, your Tennessees, Arkansas, LSU, Texas to some extent until they lost Jared Spencer. So I think power bats is going to be at a premium for Oklahoma and the portal. I think they're really going to target some guys that can change the game by swinging the bat. I think they've got enough returning that on the base paths to do that chaos small ball thing, a lot of speed. Now it's time to go get some mashers. And that kind of leads into the second part of the question. The NIL, from what I understand, compared to this time last year, is in better shape. And as we move, kind of further into this offseason, I think that's only going to grow. This program and this team has some positive momentum. A lot of us are trying to keep that up, but it's being noticed. And I think that the fan base, donors, alumni, boosters are all taking notice. And little by little, it's starting to get better. This time last year, I think last postseason, Ronnie, Oklahoma hosted anywhere from 13 to 15 real difference makers in the portal. Position players, really good batters that they could depend on. They whiffed on all of them, could not afford. Somebody else had a better offer every single time. I think Oklahoma this go around is in a little bit better shape and should be trending in the right direction. But that's what I would say. Power bats and, of course, arms. Man, you talk about losing your entire starting rotation. You lose Jamie Hitt. You lose Dylan Crooks. The one holdover I would say, pardon me, doing this entire show on my own. One sec. Drink a beer. Yeah, the one thing I would say, Dylan Tate, injured all season. We saw what he could do in the regional against a very good North Carolina lineup. There's a reason people were talking about this dude. He's a stud. Fastball runs up 97, 98. Went 4 innings, struck out 5, allowed 1 earned run. So he's a difference maker. He's a guy that if he pitches this year, Oklahoma's probably in the regional host conversation. But as bad luck would have it, miss the entire regular season with an injury. He's a junior. There is some holdout hope. Maybe Dylan Tate is back in Norman next year. If so, that's 1 of 3 of your starting rotation right there. Sealed, done, delivered. But that's a long shot that he doesn't sign. That arm talent is just too much to look at from Major League scouts, and he's eligible for the draft. And that typically is a bad combination. Okie lawn guy with Carmichael and Mudd not returning. Why would Hanson leave? I thought he was a catcher. Yeah, the catching position, man. It was kind of weird to watch this year, y'all, with Scott Mudler, dislocated shoulder, missed a lot of time. They never really experimented with anybody but Easton. And that was very telling to us that cover and talk about the team. Because if they're not, at least during a midweek, if they're not willing to throw a guy out there to see what he's got, just in case Easton got hurt and then you're screwed, you're in a spot where you don't have a catcher with experience. That was pretty telling that what's on the roster maybe was not quite up to par. So I have no idea, just can speculate kind of odd on why we didn't see anybody else. But the catching spot leaving, I mean, I would assume that's going to be a spot in the portal that they go out to and hit pretty hard to get somebody out, or JUCO ranks to catch to take over for Easton and Mudler. Any chance at all that Crossland stays? Yeah, man, there's always a chance. In my opinion, no. That's kind of a backwards answer here. I don't think he does. I don't think there's any shot, but yes, there's always a shot, if that makes sense. I think that he's a guy who kind of got bit by bad luck in starts this year. That Oklahoma defense that finished in the hundreds in fielding percentage, second to dead last in errors in the SEC. Typically, when he had a bad start, you go back and look, and there was always one big error that kind of opened the floodgates. So, that being on his resume and kind of being up and down all season, he might want to, try to up his value next year and come back and show scouts that he can do it more consistently week in, week out. That would be my only hope if I'm an OU fan, is he wants to come back and put a better product on the mound week to week. Now, he was very good, and again, the defense behind him wasn't always there. But, yeah, there's a shot. But to be honest with you, no. I think it's a pretty safe assumption all three of the weekend guys are going to be gone. Dylan Crook's gone, Jamie Hitt gone. That's where your overhaul is going to be with this team. Last year, it kind of sucks, this college baseball nowadays, but last year was replacing the 1 through 9. Your John Spikerman's, Pettis, Nicholas, Schneider, McKenzie, Madron. That's what they'd replace this year, but you got the staff. This year, now the staff's gone. And next year, you got to replace it, but you should have a pretty good core with Jason Walk. Deshaun Harris looked really good in the regional. I think he's starting to find his stride as more of what he can be as a table setter in this Oklahoma lineup next year at the very top. And what that would allow them to do is move Jason Walk down to 2 or 3 consistently with kind of the power he's got to allow for more RBIs. So you put that along with Kyle Branch, Jackson Willits up the middle. That's a very strong infield. Branch, very young, true freshman. He looked the part sometimes in the field, but he's good. He's a solid defender. So that'll be really good defensively. Jackson Willits will be the man next year for Oklahoma. He will be kind of in the Easton Carmichael role of being the crusty veteran, one of the best players in the SEC, and we'll see if he can elevate his game. But he had a very good year, but there were too many stretches of time this season, too many series where he was just a no-show. And there were reasons to that. When you got guys out from injury, Dayton Taki missing time did not help things. So your opposing team has a book, right? And they know Jackson Willits really good. They know Easton Carmichael's really good. They know their strength, their weakness, and they can attack those guys when you've got 1 or 2 out of the lineup that make a difference. So I think Jackson Willits' swing got better when Dayton Taki came back in Hoover. And he stayed on a roll out in the regional, looked like one of the best players, and he's going to be leaned on to be one of the best next season. Ronnie Krim, what do I think the staff thinks about the third base position? Man, Dawson has a very protectable frame, but struck out a ton, only hit 220, and I believe he had the second most errors in the SEC. Yeah, the Noki Lawn guy, Crossland projected to go high in the draft, or would he transfer? No, Crossland will sign with the majors, in my opinion. High enough. I mean, look, if these guys can sign, they're going to sign. That's just where we are. That's the time that we live in, and Oklahoma doesn't have the NIL. They're better, but they're not where they can be like, no, hold off on that. We'll make it worth your while more to stay here. They're not there yet. So, yeah, Crossland will sign with the majors. Dawson Willis, man, talked about him today on the radio. That's a weird case. He comes from D2, where he was, I believe, the player of the year on defense over there, and just looked out of sorts this year at third base for Oklahoma. I can't make heads or tails. Preseason press conference, all 3 guys on stage. When I said, hey, name a newcomer at the dish to watch, Dawson Willis. They couldn't get it out fast enough. Yeah, projectable. I got you. He does, dude. He looks like a top 10 major league pick when you stand next to the guy. And all of them couldn't rave enough about what he'd done in practice and what he'd done in inter-squad scrimmages. And it got everybody really fired to watch him. And then, we kind of saw what we saw. Yeah, there were flashes, the home run against Texas. He got another dinger in the regional, but just way too inconsistent, way too many errors at third. So, kind of the prevailing thought, a lot of people that got hung up on maybe Eli Willits showing to Norman, and you shuffle that infield around a little bit, maybe move Willis to shortstop, Willits to third. But Eli's not coming. He's also going to sign. He will never wear an Oklahoma uniform. I hate to be the bearer of bad news on this, all of it, but again, that's where we're at in baseball. You can't turn down a top 10 draft pick. So I'm not sure what they're going to do there. Yeah, he's looks the part, and everybody talks glowingly about him, but for some reason in games when the lights came on, he wasn't there. And you know what? That's a big transition to make from D2 to D1 major college baseball. So maybe it's just a case of more time in the system, more time around Oklahoma and their staff and their coaching staff, and kind of getting in the swing of things. Because a guy just doesn't lose his ability because he moves teams. So that one, you're not alone in asking. That one has kind of befuddled us. I mean, all season, what was going on with the guy. So he's going to be another one to watch next year. If he can come back and take a step, that goes along with a pretty decent core to build around. Drew Dickerson, Jason Walk, Deshaun Harris, Dawson Willis, Jackson Willits, and Kyle Branch. That is a good young core to kind of build off of. You've got power, you've got speed, kind of the blend they're looking for. It's just going to be a matter of picking the right pieces to put around them in the transfer portal and from the JUCO ranks. Pitching, I've already said if miraculously Dylan Tate comes back, pencil him in as one of the three. Beyond that, I know that they're making a ton of phone calls as we speak. I mean, yeah, I think they're making beer run. Hang on. I think they're making like 200, upwards of 250 phone calls a day right now fishing. So, I mean, Oklahoma baseball, the season might be over, but the season has just begun, so to speak. So I know they're trying for a lot of guys. I know that the UNLV pitcher, I saw Kendall Rogers retweet Mercurius, I think is how you say his name. I'm not sure how you say his name. I know the dude can push. I mean, I think I saw his fastball's 97, 50% whiff rate on changeup. So that would be a key addition to Oklahoma, and he would take a starting spot, no doubt. Ronnie Krim, what do I think about Cam Johnson? Got to assume he's making a big chunk of NIL compared to other guys on the team. Do I think the staff wants to keep him or wants to push him out? That's a great question with a couple answers. Yes, I think the staff wants to keep him. No, not at what they were paying him. So that's just, an assumption on my part. No offense to the kid. It's just, the product has to match the payment, right? And they tried it. They put him at the very best spot you can ask for. He's your Sunday starter week to week. He's got it in the palm of his hand. And just what happened at LSU, the exact same script happened here. And nobody can explain it. Once he loses his control, it's gone, and gone for a very long time. Now, to kind of further answer that, that's a guy in Cam Johnson that's 6'5", 250 pounds. He's a left-handed pitcher that throws the ball 98 miles an hour. That's enticing to anybody. So he's going to be coveted, not just at Oklahoma. I guarantee you more teams are and will be reaching out to get in contact with Cam Johnson, just because what I just said, the measurements will always drive people nuts, whether it ever comes to fruition or not. But I know the staff would love for Cam to stick around. I know that Skip would love another offseason to work with the guy. And he could really still, I mean, it feels kind of silly to say kind of how we saw things wrap up with Cam Johnson and how things ended for him this season. It feels kind of dumb to say he could play a major role next year, but he could. I mean, you get enough bullpen in with Skip Johnson, you get enough practice time, you hone your technique. It's very, the mantra, one pitch at a time, that's very bread and butter, but it's what they live by. So if he kind of gets that and gets back to just pitching, watch out. I mean, the guy's a major league prospect for a reason, but if he can't find control, it's not going to make a whole lot of difference. But if he does, yeah, he's going to factor into the starting rotation next year if he does indeed stay at Oklahoma. I know they want him to. So that's 2 or 3. The UNLV guy, if he comes, no doubt will be a weekend starter, and that's what they want him to be. That's why they're going after the guy. And then that leaves us kind of with what they've got. Beer run. Oh, man. Yeah. So what's going to be left over on staff after this overhaul? Well, Jacob Golston, I don't know. The kid's MIA. When he has pitched the last 2 years, it hadn't gone well. He was a very highly touted recruit. Probably, I don't think he sticks around. Jaden Barfield, on the other hand, has looked very good. I mean, as a true freshman, you got to put that in perspective. I was talking about Kyle Branch being a true freshman and showing the part. Jaden Barfield, in 2 instances in the postseason, said, "Give me the baseball. I got this," against Kentucky and Hoover, a team that had just swept Oklahoma 2 weeks prior. Goes out, does astounding for a true freshman. Gave Oklahoma the chance they needed to win. Does the exact same thing against the top 5 national seed North Carolina in their own backyard. I mean, that to me is unbelievable for a true freshman. I dig the kid. I like the fact he throws his hat a little to the side, a la Fernando Rodney. He's got a little swag to him, a little attitude. You got to have that, to play baseball nowadays. I like his moxie. I like his makeup, and I think he will factor into the starting rotation next year as well. Michael Catalano is another guy to keep an eye on. Spot duty this year, but very good when he was on the mound. You never know in this day and age, but any idea if any key contributors from this roster will enter the portal? Key contributors? No, I don't think so. When you talk about, your core guys that I've kind of mentioned, Landon Victoria, I'll talk about that dude as a true freshman looked pretty badass. Now, as 1 through 9 contributors, I don't think so. I mean that would include, I guess you have to say Dawson Willis is one, Kyle Branch, Jackson Willits, Deshaun Harris, Jason Walk. Jason Walk is an interesting one for me. I think that due to the power he showed to go along with the speed we knew he had, that's going to be an enticing player for teams that have a better budget. And I think people will come calling. I don't foresee Jason Walk leaving, but it wouldn't surprise me to hear that he has a lot of suitors. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on. He's a coveted piece in an outfield that can do a lot, got a lot of tools, as they like to say. So that would be about the only one I could think people will really come knocking for. Jackson Willits, of course, would be another one, but you don't have to worry about that because he's legacy with his dad, coach, offense coordinator at Oklahoma. So, yeah, I mean, to roundabout way answer your question, Jason Walk would be the one guy maybe OU fans would have to worry about because I do think people will throw pretty good numbers at that guy. Barfield, Mini CC Sabathia. Yeah. I see a lot of Sabathia in this kid. There's something cool to me about a freshman that basically tells the coaching staff, give me the baseball. I mean, that's in that spot. A lot of kids, 18, 19 years old, are like, hell no. I'm shying away from that, scared to death, got the butterflies, I got to go back behind the dugout and puke. Not this dude. And there's something to be said for that. And on top of that, the performance he showed after he said, give me the baseball. He's got a great glove side fastball run at noon to 6, curveballs, nasty, a good slider. So, I mean, he's got tools to work with, and the moxie, yeah, that's a big get for Oklahoma. Landon Victorian, thought it was odd. He only got one appearance this year. I thought he looked pretty solid. Yeah, I did too. I forget, was that Mississippi State when he threw? One of those, series in Norman I was leaving and heard Toby say that Victorian was on the mound. Got it up on ESPN Plus, and he looked the part again. Looked like just another weekend pitcher cycled up for Skip Johnson. That's going to be, do big things. It's odd. That's the only time he threw. I didn't hear anything of an injury, but sometimes they keep that stuff under wraps. Maybe he has. I hate to speculate, but it is odd to only see the guy once when he looked like that. So I don't know. I agree with you. It's odd we saw him once. If he comes back, that's that. I mean, look, they got some arms to work with. I know it sounds foreboding, and it is to lose your entire weekend staff, but they got arms to work with, and you just plug one or two out in the portal, and all of a sudden, bam, you got another staff built and a pretty solid 1 through 9 to work with, at least a good core of a 1 through 9 to work with. Why would Walk transfer? Money. That's what it's all about right now. It comes down to, look, it's a good thing that Oklahoma has excellent culture. All right. Skip Johnson's mantra about it's not about wins and losses. It's about being here. It's about us. It's about what you do for each other, loving your teammates. That's a good thing because these guys really buy into it. That means when there's better money thrown at them, that culture is enough most times to keep them here. But this is 2025. It's all about what an agent goes back to the parents or the player with the highest offer. So I never want to rule anything out. I mean, look, nothing surprises me in any sport anymore as far as transfers go. I've been doing this too long, and I think fans are right there in the same boat. Do I think Walk transfers? No. Do I think he's a guy that people need to keep their eye on that's going to be, chunked a lot of money at to transfer? Absolutely. Texas Southern, that's right. Bobcats. Or no, that's Texas State. There's too many freaking Texas schools, I'll tell you that. How about UTSA knocking off Texas? That was a bummer. Yeah. So yeah, Victorian looked good. I don't think Walk transfers. People want him to, but did I hear the post game interview with Skip and Carly Murray? Sounded like he was surprised that Carmichael was not returning. I didn't hear that. I didn't. I know that Darby, Easton's dad, has kind of made it sound pretty clear that he is, and yeah, you wish him well, of course, as an OU fan. The guy has given his all to this university, became a lightning rod type catcher this year and leader of a team. And I love the fact that Easton, a lot of people thought Scott Mudler last year was better defensively, and Easton was kind of a liability at catcher. I love the fact that Easton said, all right, I'm going to go to the Cape and hone my craft, work on it day in, day out, came back and was one of the best defensive catchers in the SEC. That is true grit. That's having a love for this game and a love to elevate your game. And he's put himself in this spot being to be one of the top draft picks in the major league. So I think, yeah, Skip might have sounded surprised, but to be honest, I don't think the staff is going to be that shocked when he signs, and they'll wish him well when he does. Taylor Tatum, man, yeah, that's another weird one, guys. When I watched Drew Dickerson just hitting nukes uh, out of Frisco, I also watched a dude named Taylor Tatum hit nukes every pitch over the fence. And I did talk to Ryan Gaines. He's not director of ops anymore. They gave him a cute, really neat title. I forget what it is. He's a badass OU baseball. I talked to him about Taylor Tatum. I'm like, well, why is this guy not playing? Uh, football to baseball, there's a lot to get caught up on. And that was kind of what I was told. He and James Nesta both trying to come from football to baseball. There's just the nuances, in OU's offense and all they like to do, running the bases, and signs and having a feel for this and a feel for that. Said these guys just aren't caught up yet. And if it didn't happen by the end of the season, I'm not sure that we'll ever see Nesta or Taylor Tatum. I hate to rule it out, and I'm not, but if they didn't get it, by they went to Hoover, they went to a regional, they extended the season by weeks and weeks and weeks, and these guys still were no shows. So there's something up there. They're so far behind, having to devote so much time to football, workouts, what have you, that when they step on the baseball diamond for this OU baseball team, they're just automatically so far behind the eight ball. These guys have been playing inter squads and all that stuff, have a huge step up on them. So we'll see what happens with Nesta and Tatum. I do know that Tatum is a freak athlete. The guy looks like Bo Jackson out there. So he might be one that the next year does catch on. A couple of years in the system, it won't make as much difference coming from football to baseball because he's already been through it once. We'll be caught up on things. So maybe he's a guy that makes a splash next year, and that would be more than welcome. Okie Lawn guy, he said, I see that he's hugging his teammates, so I guess that he's not returning. Yeah, that kind of sounds like Skip's sense of humor a little bit. Yeah, I could see it. But yeah, I don't think anybody's stunned that Easton will be taken off. They'll tip their cap and wish the guy well. What about Grant Stevens, brother from Mississippi State? Yes, good call. That's definitely somebody to keep an eye on. Grant Stevens himself announced retirement earlier this year, yet was out in the bullpen for most of the season. So kind of curious what's up there. Medical hardship waivers are tough to come by, but he missed the entire year. So that probably wouldn't be. So, that's something to keep an eye on. His brother, a good season, Mississippi State. I think I saw he had 4 home runs at 287, limited playing time, a guy that's starting to really get his feel for college baseball. So that would be a good get and a good bat for depth, and it could develop into something better. I think right now, Oklahoma is in a spot they're looking for depth pieces, sure, to surround what they have, but I think they want to go out and get that guy, that Boston Smith from Wright State, that 20 home run guy that's going to strike fear in the opposing team and then build pieces around that. So I don't know how many development players they're going to bring in. I think they're at a point that they really want to dice this lineup with guys that they've already produced, they're established, and kind of hit the JUCO ranks for your development guys. Thinking about Grant Stevens over the weekend, that would have been a nice arm to have. Yeah, man. I mean, Grant Stevens, people forget the regional last year in Norman against UConn. Grant Stevens, I think, started the last game of that. Pitched an absolute gem. Unfortunately for him, the Oklahoma offense was AWOL, but he's a left-handed veteran guy that's played a ton of baseball, been in every single moment that you can imagine, and he would have been used all season in all kinds of spots, and no doubt in this regional. when they got to the end of their arm, so to speak. He'd have been one of the first guys out of the bullpen, and he was missed. Curious to see what happens with him, especially if his brother commits to Oklahoma. Okie Long guy, that would be awesome if Grant Stevens got a second opinion and returned for one last run with the Sooners, guys. Some serious moxie. Yeah, I agree. I mean, yeah, for everything I just said. And if he gets cleared, why not? There's no doubt he would get a medical hardship waiver and another year extended. Come on back and run it back, especially if your brother comes to OU. What a story that would make. Yeah, Mercurius kid from UNLV has a younger brother committed to OU. Yeah, that's right. It's kind of a weird dichotomy with OU, right? You think about the brother connection. Good God, the Carmichaels, the Willets, the Stevens, if that happens. And I know I'm just butchering this dude's name, Mercurius, for UNLV. I did see that 2 Oklahoma commits in separate states got the Gatorade State Player of the Year, one in Colorado, I think, one in New Mexico. So, as much as we talk about the transfer portal and JUCOs and that they're right now, there still is something to be said about a team that builds their base around high school recruits. And that's what you imagine a tree. The tree is above ground. That's what you see. That's your JUCO. That's your portal. The roots below ground are high school kids that you build and develop in your program. And people can't lose sight of the fact that Oklahoma has a good class coming in to stack on top of another one. That's the last question I see for a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to touch base on kind of what they wanted to look at replacing this year, what needs to be replaced, where do they need some help, and above all, how to get over this last little hump. Since 2022, the national championship appearance against Ole Miss, there's starting to become a hurdle, right, of getting out of regional play. You go out to Virginia, nope. You host one in Norman, nope. This year you go to the MAX Game 7, nope. And I think that's what we're going to see. This Oklahoma team, the staff is good enough that they're going to get Oklahoma right there on the precipice of doing big things. But until they've got some help, until the fan base, until the administration really put some muscle behind, advertising and fundraising and helping them out, boosters and donors, start to realize they've got something special in Norman. You can have an elite baseball team. Until they start helping out in all those ways, this is what you're going to see, a team that is damn good, but just can't quite get over that last hump. Cade Horton was the exception in 22. The guy came out of nowhere after he learned a slider and became the best, pitcher in college baseball. He was that year. By the time it was said and done, that's why they advanced all the way to Omaha. That's not going to happen every single year. So Oklahoma, to compete with LSU, to compete with Tennessee and Texas most years, and Arkansas, and the best echelon teams in the SEC, I know it's beating a dead horse, but they've got to get some help. Okie Lawn guy, what if the Witherspoons say heck to the MLB for now and run it back one last time? Well, my friend, you would have better luck playing pickup sticks with your butt cheeks than that happening. just to be blunt, it ain't happening. These guys are both going to the show, or at least starting the road to the show, and well earned. Malachi this season, it took a while for him to hit his stride, but boy, when he found it, look, just to tell it like it is, the last month of the season, he outperformed Kyson in a lot of areas. Kyson, of course, was outstanding. Copy paste, 7+ innings, 9+ strikeouts, 2 or under earned runs. But Malachi in spots, man, the Texas series, at Hoover and the regional looked like what anybody before the season started thought Malachi was going to look like, and that's why there was so much hope with the staff. He got it, but it took a while to get there. Ronnie Krim, any chance Brandon Kane stays at OU and tries pitching full time? I assumed he's going to hit the portal, but I think Skip said, yeah, he can get it, dude. He can let it rip. 98, 99 on the gun. I don't think so, to be honest. I think Brandon Kane is a guy that does transfer. You know what? You can't blame these kids. You give it a go at a certain place. You don't get much PT. Somebody else offers, gives you a chance to show what you can do on the field. Of course, I don't blame these kids. So just my guess, my estimation would be no. Brandon Kane probably transfers. But if he did stay, that's another arm out there that they could try to hone. The problem is you got flamethrowers, man. You got Jacob Golston, you got Cam Johnson already there on the roster, on the staff, and they just can't, find the strike zone. Or you've got to have a batter in batting practice fearing for his life when he goes to the dish. And you can't have that. They're already taking up too many roster spots with that for pitching for guys that they're trying to get there, but just if you're not going to throw and you're on the roster, you're wasting a spot. So yeah, I think Brandon Kane probably bounces. Okie Lawn guy, I hope they keep Deshaun Harris. Yeah. Deshaun Harris, 8 for 14, 6 RBI, and he scored 5 times. And scoring 5 times is important because that shows he can be a table setter in this lineup next season. Put him at the top. Jason Walk, you can drop down to 2 or 3 with the power he's shown, and give him more RBI opportunity. And don't worry about, guys getting on base, because Deshaun Harris is going to do that at the top. You've been kind of waiting for Deshaun Harris to wake up and not wake up. That sounded bad. To kind of get it, it takes some time for things to slow down in your mind playing D1 baseball. And you can see it slowed down for Deshaun. I mean, when he's locked in and he's comfortable at the plate and he's comfortable in the field, he's one of the best players Oklahoma has. And that's coming back next year. So, yeah. Keeping Deshaun Harris, there's going to be an onus on that, along with Drew Dickerson, which I've already spoke of. That's an SEC dude, one of a couple that they're going to have. You start talking about Drew Dickerson, Jackson Willits next year, probably hitting, just guessing, 3-4 in the Oklahoma lineup. That's pretty stout. If Drew Dickerson, the one thing, beer run. Bartender, Joe Boo needs a refill. The one thing to keep an eye on with Dickerson, sophomore slumps exist. They happen. Can I explain them? No, but it's a thing. And there's going to be a whole lot of hype around Drew Dickerson next season after what he just did to cap this year off. There was hype coming in, a top 150 recruit in the country. There's always going to be, and it didn't really pan out. He showed flashes, and then right here at the end, with all eyes on you, you go out there and do that. And I think 7 for 12, 3 home runs, 7 RBI in one regional to end things. Yeah, it's going to amp up next year. He's going to be the man people are talking about with OU baseball. I'm talking national people. So can he deal with that? Can he deal with the pressure that comes with being the guy on the OU lineup? So, I'm not trying to piss on a parade here, but he'll have to deal with that, and he'll have to prove he can overcome it. If he can, watch out. He is a legit major league dude in their lineup right now that's capable of carrying Oklahoma to really good places next year, because that's what they didn't have outside of Easton this year, is a guy with pop. And that it was just evident. You flip over, you watch Arkansas, you watch Tennessee. They got dudes that just hit the ball out of the ballpark on any given pitch, and it changes so many games so fast. Oklahoma's pitching is what got them to where they ended up, which was really good. But to get to Omaha, they had to be Omaha good. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. They were outstanding, but they were always going to be the strength of OU in 25. And Kyson Witherspoon is a once-in-a-generation. Might be an overstatement. I don't want to sell the kid short. Once-in-a-decade type pitcher. Might be the best pitcher in college baseball this year. You had that, but behind him, ups and downs. So no doubt defense will be something that they want to work on next year. That defense, look, it had a direct result in getting this team bounced from the regional and not hosting a super regional in Norman. Errors. You can't do that. You can't give a top 5 seed extra outs. Way too much of that all season long. So no doubt Oklahoma will try to figure out what the deal is. Is it coaching? Is it technique? Is it focus? Is it just youth? You got a lot of dudes in the infield that are new to D1 baseball. I don't know, but they're going to be on the hunt for the fix next year. But I know this SEC channel I'm on, the host backstage is all eyes on Texas and Texas Tech right now. Oklahoma softball, of course, knocked out. What an unbelievable game fuck's sake. That swing to tie it, it's like some kind of black magic, voodoo magic. But bummer what happened, in the bottom half of the next inning. Oklahoma, in a rebuild year, was 2 wins away from the National Championship Series. Watch out, not going anywhere anytime soon. Well, I don't see any questions for a while. We've been going 40 minutes, guys. Greatly appreciate you hopping on. I hope you enjoyed it. And it's been informative, if not entertaining, and a little funny. That's me in a nutshell. Yeah, so catch you right back here. Randy Heights, we'll be back next week. He is hanging over a toilet, praying to the porcelain gods as we speak. So hopefully he gets better. But yeah, he'll be back next week. Have a lot more stuff through the franchise network and on the radio course. NBA Finals starting tomorrow. Yeah, Thunder up, whip that ass. Okie lawn guy. I didn't see as much chaos on the bases this. Yeah, that's a good point, man. I got to wrap in 4, but that's enough time. Thanks, Ronnie, man. Thanks for dropping by. Always appreciate the hardcore, the best fans, of the best fan base around, keeping tabs. But yeah, that's a good point. The chaos on the bases this year kind of disappeared at times, and that got us talking a lot. If chaos is your mantra and you want to play small ball and steal bags, then steal bags and play small ball. It seemed like for whatever reason that would go away at times. Now games dictated some of that. When you're down 7-1 in the 8th, you can't take a chance getting thrown out, running out. So you understand that. But yeah, the offense was a little kind of a mix mush mash this year, and I don't know if that was personnel or what, but I think the ultimate mix will be a little of both. You have guys that can hit the ball out of the ballpark and guys that can swipe bags, and the sweet spot is somewhere in the middle. But Thunder up, y'all. Game 1 tomorrow night, NBA Finals, Oklahoma City. That's really the last thing uh, in the state, going on sports-wise. So get behind them, get loud, get in front of a TV, drink, a Dr. Pepper, and get loud. Thunder up, everybody. But we'll be back next week. I'll be back with Randy Heights for a Cord behind whatever he's behind, watching Texas. Hopefully they're losing. It's getting Cord. I'm Dave Myrick, 107.7 The Franchise. We'll catch up with you guys next week.